Good morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church in Eugene. It's great to see new and familiar faces this morning. When your fire dims, we will share our flame. When your heart grows weary, we will share our love. When your words cast shadows, we will share our kindness. And when your arms grow leaden, we will share our strength. Your path is your own, but know that you are not alone. Our hope is that you feel at home and experience the warmth of this community that values jet pigs. Justice, equity, transformation, pluralism, interdependence, and generosity. We're glad you've chosen to spend your summer solstice here with us this morning. Welcome to everybody on Zoom. Cameras back there. And also welcome to everybody in the sanctuary. You are seen and you belong. My name is Stace Ryerson. My pronouns are she, her, and this morning I am wearing a colorful, swirly stole, a white speckled blouse, and I just found out at a routine doctor's appointment that I've lost about an inch since my last appointment, apparently, but I'm now about 5'4". Today we celebrate flourishing together with a guest speaker, Reverend Melanie Oommen. Reverend Oommen is a minister with the United Church of Christ and working remotely in Eugene for the national ministries. This is her third time guest preaching at UUCE this year. And again, welcome. Come, let us light the flaming chalice. Thank you to Liz. This is the symbol of our Unitarian Universalist faith. This is the light of truth, the beacon of hope, the spark of the divine, alive in every person.
Take a few moments to be together in meditation and quiet. Here I am. I am here, right now, open. In the stillness, we gentle ourselves with each inward breath, breathing in serenity. With each outward breath, softening. Each breath releasing tension in our bodies and our spirits, allowing spirit breath into all of it. Noticing without judgment that which distracts, where our concerns are, breathing compassion into all of it. Here I am here, right now, open. We gather into our awareness those who have been named aloud, and those situations and people for whom we have concern that we name silently in our hearts. For those who grieve, and for the grief that we carry. For those who struggle, and for those who celebrate. For those, including ourselves, who are seeking a way towards wholeness. and for any who are experiencing alienation, violence, war, poverty. We hold in the embrace of love and the abiding hope for justice. Our stories, all of our stories, are challenges and joys, deserving of attention, care, compassion. The grace of spirit, the power of love names, blesses, heals, finding a peace that this world doesn't give and this world can't take away. Here I am. I am here, right now, open. So we hold our community, the named and the unnamed, in our minds, in our love, in our compassion, so that each may find what they need: peace, healing, strength, belonging, justice. In this stillness, we breathe. In this stillness, in this place, we can be right here, right now, open. What a joy to be with all of you again. As Stace said, this is my third time and perhaps final time, because I understand you have some new folks coming on board in the fall. It's very exciting. So after 22 years as a local church minister, my ministry is now with this national denomination of which I'm a part, and which means I serve churches all over the country, which is a really beautiful thing, very gratifying, but I no longer have the opportunity to preach regularly, and it is really an honor. I think even more so than when I was doing this regularly, I appreciate the fact that people gather and listen, and it's kind of an extraordinary thing to do. And I'm so grateful always to do it here. It's always such a good team with Joe and Suzanne and Stace and Chris. It's been nice to get to know them. And you really do have a beautiful system that includes lots of voices. It's really lovely. And what a gift that Rev Jen was invited to speak to the whole church, the whole UUA. And I know many of you gathered this morning. I know it'll be easy to find online, so nobody will need to have missed it, even if you didn't get here early this morning. What an honor that your minister was invited to speak on the national stage. A great honor and recognition of the contribution she has made to the flourishing of this UUA community. What a blessing. My first experience of community, aside from my family and school, was as a teenager when I started attending a church in the small town where I grew up in Michigan. As we do when we're learning our way around in a new social environment, I watched everything in that church very carefully. I looked for clues about what the norms and values of the community were so that I could be accepted, that I could be a part of things. I noticed the kind of clothes people wore, and I tried to imitate that. I saw that being on time was important, so I did that. I learned the songs and the rituals, when to stand up and when to sit down, how loud or soft to sing, when to ask questions, when not to ask questions, and what kinds of questions were acceptable to ask. At the center of it all, I just wanted to belong. And for nearly 2 years, I did all the things with diligence. I was an attentive student. But there was something missing. I went off to college, and I never went back to that church. And looking back on my younger self, I realized that what was missing was me. I was trying so hard to do all the right things that I didn't realize that there was little of me showing up in my relationship with that community. I think about it now as a middle-aged Costco shopper as treating my participation in spiritual community a little like a Costco membership. As a Costco member, I've learned when to produce my membership card. I know where to stand in line, which line will move quicker, when the samples appear and disappear. I know I should have my receipt in hand at the exit so they can look it over. If I notice someone seems not to know what to do at Costco, I am ready to help. I can offer them some guidance. Here are the rules. I know what to do, how to do it, and when to do it. That means I am a good citizen of the world of Costco. And contributing to the flourishing of a healthy spiritual community is not like being a good citizen at Costco. It's something actually quite different. Comparable more to an ecosystem in which everything all the time is interacting and reacting to the changes and the inputs and all the organisms entering and leaving and interacting in the system. In a community, nothing is static. All is alive. All is connected and changing and unfolding. When a new person shows up, the ecosystem of the community is changed because their unique gifts, graces, struggles, and personality become a dynamic addition to the system, which means that how we show up in the ecosystem matters. It matters a lot. I would call this the fine print of community, that the ways we show up matter, and I have come to learn in the 40 years that I have committed my life to building healthy communities of faith, that moving toward authenticity contributes to our flourishing together. In community, we can learn to be our authentic selves, and we can learn in that process the value of humility. I know that's a tricky word for a lot of us, but I'm not talking about the self-deprecating, self-denying, false version of humility, but true humility as the virtue of liberation from the tyranny of the self. That's how Joan Chittister, a Catholic spiritual writer, defines it. The virtue of liberation from the tyranny of the self. The word humility shares the origin story of words like humus and humanity and humane, the earthiness that is our inheritance as human beings, that from the earth we come and to the earth we return, fragile, resilient, adaptive beings who are formed by living and love. And we are most whole, and we know this, when we are bravely honest about who we are, while at the same time fully aware of how we are profoundly linked to our fellow travelers in this life. So what does that look like? To be released from the tyranny of the self? I don't have any easy answers to that, but we're going to explore a little bit. What might it look like to show up in our unique selves with our struggles and our joys, our gifts and graces, the burdens that we carry, and the ways that we lighten the load for others in a way that contributes to our mutual thriving? And mutuality is a big part of the flourishing of community, isn't it? To be fully human, earthy beings willing to show up in the muck and the fertile soil to nurture the growth and thriving of others so that somehow, miraculously, we flourish together. As a Christian, I look to the stories and teachings of Jesus as an important source of spiritual wisdom and insight. And there's a story about Jesus I'm going to share with you this morning that rarely gets shared, and you might find out why pretty quickly. It's from Matthew's telling of Jesus' life story. Jesus is weary from all the traveling, teaching, healing, all the Jesus things that Jesus does, and so is sitting in a quiet space, and a woman comes to him to ask if he would heal her ill daughter. I mean, that's a reasonable expectation because this is kind of what Jesus does all the time. But she's a Canaanite woman, which means she's of a different community and religion than Jesus. His disciples encourage him to tell her to go away. She doesn't belong here. She's an outsider and not deserving of their time. And at first, Jesus agrees and actually refuses to heal the woman's daughter. And he refuses in a way that doesn't feel very Jesus-like, because he says to her, "It's not right to take the children's bread and toss it to the dogs," meaning that his gift of healing would be wasted on her and her daughter and should only be shared with his own community. That's pretty harsh. Can you see why this story doesn't get told a lot? Ouch. Rather than compassion for a woman who's trying to save her daughter, he insults her and diminishes her humanity. And then there's a pause. And we all know this pause. When someone says something to us that lands hard, and we have to figure out what to do next. How will this woman, desperate to save not herself, but her precious child, respond to this insult? Will she walk away in humiliation, rejected by the person who may be her last hope for healing for her daughter? Bravely, she chooses to challenge Jesus, a man in a culture in which women had no authority to challenge men. And she returns using some of his words, I wouldn't say against him, but maybe holding up the mirror. And she says, "Even dogs deserve the crumbs of the table." We are all creation, she is saying, deserving of dignity and care. And then there's another pause, kind of like a ping pong match. Now the ball is in his court. Another moment of decision. He could walk away. This story could never be told. It's kind of up to him. He could serve as he served, unchanged by the encounter, but that isn't what happens. Jesus stops and says, "You're right." And he heals her daughter. The teacher, Jesus, is taught. And he responds not with defensiveness, but with humility. "You are right," he says, "and because of your faithfulness, your daughter is healed." And then the story goes on, because in the very next chapter of Matthew, Jesus feeds 4,000 children and adults without verifying their religion. And every other story that follows bears evidence that his healing and love isn't just for a select few, but for everyone. This short encounter with the woman changed him and his perspective and the way he spent the rest of his life and ministry. Reminding that we are part of the ecosystem, aren't we? That all touches all and change is available, should we be open to it. I found this poem by Avery Malone called Morning Armor, and I think it lends something to this conversation. She writes, "I tried to enter the day without my defenses. I left my sharp edges on the nightstand, my rehearsed explanations folded neatly beside them. The world felt louder without my armor. Every sound brushed too close, every glance lingered longer than expected. But there was something holy about feeling unguarded, like standing barefoot on truth, learning the shape of it through pain. I realized how much strength I've spent pretending not to feel, and often I confuse survival with living. But today, I let myself be seen by the light without editing the shadows. Today, I let myself be seen by the light without editing the shadows. Sometimes something happens in real time that I respond to in a way after the fact that I wish I would have done differently. I'm probably the only one that has this experience, right? And then I turn that experience, that moment, over and over in my mind and my heart. The interaction or decision plays and replays in my head. I think of a better response, a smarter response, or I just wish I could take back the words that fell out of my mouth. If only I'd been a better listener, or simply taken a breath to consider the situation before choosing to respond. I've learned along the way that in community, we can step into that light and not have to edit the shadows. I've learned along the way in community that do-overs are a way to change direction, to dig oneself out of a hole of our making, but maybe not of our choosing, to say, wait, that isn't what I meant. That isn't the way I wanted to respond to you. Can we do a do-over? Can I try again? Relationships are built on decision after decision of how to show up with one another, how to be brave, when to relinquish, when to listen better, when to speak an uncomfortable truth. And the gift of being together is that should we allow ourselves, we can learn and grow if we are open to it, knowing that it often takes numerous times to land on the most loving way. I, like perhaps many of you, am thinking of my dad today. He died 6 years ago, and as parental relationships tend to go, my relationship with my dad was complicated. There was love, but there was also a lot of conflict and a lot of defensiveness that got in the way of being close. But in the last years of my dad's long life, something shifted. He allowed himself to be vulnerable, to share honestly the regrets he had, and also the gratitude he had for his kids and grandkids. I had never before heard my dad admit that he was wrong or had done anything wrong. And honestly, nor had I in our relationship. And suddenly he was sharing his honest feelings about what he had wished he had done differently or more of. And that vulnerability opened something in me, and it opened something in our relationship. It was a risk for him, and maybe being at the end of his life was a risk that didn't see a lot of liabilities, of course, as it is for all of us. But to be our earthy selves is gift. To ask for a do-over, to admit that we don't have all the information or that we're afraid to share what is true and honest, but we still want to, or that we were really doing our best and sometimes it just isn't good enough. My dad's bravery disarmed me, and I was able to be authentic with him in a way that I had never been. And it's made a difference in my relationship with my own children. What a gift. One that I treasure and learn from still. The amazing news is that we earthlings were never created to be perfect. And that the opportunity is there in every moment for us to be authentically, humbly ourselves. And as my dad showed me, even until we take our last breath, that choice is available to us. There is time to move to the music of something more than our own desires and need to control, to respond to the expressions of others with question marks and commas rather than with definitive and conversation-stopping periods, to the version of ourselves that is seen by the light without editing the shadows, and to give space and grace for others to do the same. flourishing together. It's flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Go in peace, friends.